Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller Grotner Plummer Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Maller Grotner Plummer Attorneys, understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, on the web at lawngp.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville, fiber internet, security solutions, and voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson, attorneys at law since 1949, utilizing experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. The city of Bloomington is taking action against the owners of Crawford Apartments, which is tailored for people facing chronic homelessness.
We believe that the providers are coming together now to actually make Crawford a success, but we did file a lawsuit to make sure that clock starts running.
Crawford owners have until next month to get the units up to code. A new law took effect this month requiring all public meetings to be available online, but it was left up to municipalities to implement.
It frustrates me that the legislature sometimes passes unfunded mandates of things that we have to do.
The new law doesn't say much about what happens if organizations don't fall in line. And the Ellettsville Domino's is hosting a fundraiser this weekend for an employee injured when a car jumped the curb. We'll have these stories and more right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Rand, joined by Benta Boutier. Well, the city of Bloomington is suing the owners of an apartment complex in Bloomington that's aimed at housing people who have been chronically homeless. The first building opened in 2013, a second opened in 2017. Benta, you've been following this issue. What can you tell us about what the city is saying?
So the city's lawsuit details conditions like broken appliances, a bug infestation, and missing smoke detectors. And it says that about a third of the 61 units are uninhabitable.
So what is the city pushing the apartment duplex to do? What are they saying?
So the conditions that the city described come from recent hand inspections that are done regularly for rental properties. And the city also contributed a significant amount of money to the apartment's construction. So they're asking that they basically bring these units up to rental codes.
So the apartments are what's called permanent supportive housing. So what does that mean?
So it prioritizes putting someone who's experienced chronic homelessness into housing first, with the hope that they can more readily address other issues they may face after that. And this has been something that's been pushed since the Bush administration, but has become more criticized with the more recent presidential administration.
So you spoke with the apartment service provider, the mayor, heading home over the last week. What did you learn?
So the city has been asking for the last year that the apartments get up to code, and that hasn't happened yet. And so advocates are really hoping that this city action will push some change for Crawford Apartments. The Crawford Apartments on the south side of Bloomington in 2013. Life Designs and Habitat for Humanity partnered with the Shalom Center, now called Beacon Inc., in Bloomington to build the facilities. Before Crawford opened in 2013, the CEO of Life Designs called it a gorgeous facility and said the apartments are lovely. But that's not how people describe it 12 years later. Still, housing advocates remain optimistic.
Around 85% of individuals who come into programs like this stay housed, and that's, our primary objective.
According to a HUD report, between 2010 to 2011, most states saw a decrease in the number of people experiencing homelessness. Indiana was an outlier. Its count increased by nearly 20% that year, ranking in the top 5 states to see an increase. Reports lack more local data, but a local news report says the number of people booked at the Monroe County Jail without a permanent residence or who were staying at a shelter more than doubled between 2007 to 2011. Crawford Apartments are for people who have been chronically homeless.
Dwight Hayes moved into Crawford Apartments earlier this year after more than 6 years of being homeless.
Beacon Inc., the service provider for Crawford's residents, reported drops in emergency room visits and incarcerations. A second building opened in 2017 with 27 more units. The apartments cost more than $6 million to build, paid for by HUD grants and public money from the city. Many residents have a housing choice voucher, which pays their rent. But Bloomington's mayor and longtime fixture in local housing says the city communicated with the apartment's owners, Senair, its management, Continental, and its service provider, Beacon Inc., for more than a year about improving Crawford's conditions.
We believe that the providers are coming together now to actually make Crawford a success, but we did file a lawsuit to make sure that clock starts running.
Thompson says because of the population Crawford Apartments serve, it's often a last resort. She says there needs to be more state and federal investment in addiction services and mental health.
They need longer-term mental health care to get stabilized, and unfortunately, we just don't have those resources in the state of Indiana.
The city, along with Beacon Inc. and other housing advocates in the community, created a list of changes to implement, starting with getting the building to code. But it also includes changing the process for screening residents and encouraging more police patrols.
It really needs to turn around, and this, after the building gets fixed, the thing that's going to keep it running well and keep the people safe is really, really good supportive services.
Beacon Inc. received a 5-year grant to increase on-site supportive staff from 6 to 10. It's allocating $100,000 of grant money to cleaning the apartments.
We're absolutely committed to that, and I'm grateful that the city has stepped in to ensure that the property manager gets that there. We are a team player, and so we're doing all we can to support property management and ensuring that that happens.
Gilmore says Beacon Inc. has been concerned about Crawford's conditions. Because it doesn't own or manage the facility, a large part of getting the apartments ready falls on the management and owners. The city also wants Crawford Apartments to explore options for addiction and psychiatric care and have a faster response when property damage occurs. Heading Home, a collaboration of groups working for housing stability in the region, was part of these conversations.
It's not a question of sustainability, it's a question of our society's commitment to providing the kinds of resources that people need.
Morgan says supporting Crawford is a challenge because the Housing First model requires resources. But to her, there's no alternative.
It's people living on the street and death.
So Benta, what does this mean for the future then of Crawford Apartments?
So residents are still living in the habitable apartments, and the city is asking that the Crawford apartment owners get them up to code and by August, and if they don't, there could be legal actions or fines.
All right, Benta, thank you so much for your reporting on this.
Thank you.
The U.S. Department of Education is threatening to revoke funding for schools that provide race-based scholarships. Now, some universities, including IU, are telling donors to remove language from their private gifts, giving preference to underrepresented groups. But as Ethan Sandwise reports, not all alumni are on board.
Since he helped found IU's LGBTQ Culture Center more than 30 years ago, Doug Bowder has seen a world of change. At that time, there were states in the country where same-sex sexual activity was illegal. Now Americans can marry who they want, regardless of gender. But some gay and transgender students are still cut off financially when they come out to their families. IU was one of the first institutions to offer scholarships specifically to LGBTQ students in 2005.
And that was considerable when, during the years I was in the directorship. It may not be as much now, I don't know, but a number of scholarships were given, and I know of some situations that were heartbreaking.
In June, the IU Foundation, which manages donations to the university, began telling donors they needed to alter language in their gift agreements pertaining to marginalized groups. For example, scholarships for gay students. The foundation told them new federal guidance required changes. Until then, their scholarships were frozen.
Initially, I was, as I said, very annoyed that this very difficult, creative, and helpful program was being, I felt it was being squashed.
While the Trump administration has made good on threats against universities such as Columbia and Harvard, many donors bristled at the order from IU, which they saw as preemptive compliance.
We're trying to kiss the ring of politicians in hopes that they won't harm the university, and what, $60 million of our state budget was cut for the next year, and $40 million of our federal budget has already been cut.
Stone is a former IU trustee, Kelly School lecturer, and member of the Queer Philanthropy Circle. IU is close to her heart. She set up a scholarship for lesbian students in honor of her late partner.
I had someone in my family decide to make a gift about a month or so ago, and it was taken down from the foundation's website. No explanation. I wasn't told.
Foundation board members and alumni donors told WTIU that interactions were tense between donors to affinity scholarships and the foundation and university administrations. Beside LGBTQ scholarships have been frozen for Black, Latino, and Asian students.
23 years later, I feel like a lot of the work that has gone on at the Asian Culture Center and supporting Asian Pacific Islander students is now dismissed.
Rodriguez Patel has Filipina heritage and says it's important for her to support Asian and Pacific Islander students, which is around 10% of the Bloomington student body.
I want to see what continues to unfold at IU, and then I'll determine whether or not I'll continue participating. But it looks pretty bleak.
After protests and talks within the foundation, some donors say they've managed to find language that preserves the intent of their gift. One member of the Black Philanthropy Circle says they've changed their gifts to include Black majority zip codes in Indianapolis. At a meeting with the LGBTQ alumni last month, foundation leaders proposed expanding scholarships to include allies. Reactions overall have been mixed, but Bowder says his friends who are at the meeting see the new language as an improvement over the previous guidance.
There's very little change in the language, and there was satisfaction on the part of GLBT alum who were there and alumni officials.
The IU Foundation declined WTIU's request for an interview, but in an emailed statement, then General Counsel Philippa Guthrie said, quote, "Our overarching goal remains clear, to preserve access and affordability for all eligible students while honoring the intent of our generous supporters and remaining legally compliant."
Part of me says, fine. If this is what we need to do, if we need to play these kind of games with politicians at the federal or state level, that we say, oh, fine, on paper, they're open to all.
But ultimately, Stone says she's ending her involvement with IU. It wasn't because of the changes, but the 2 months of confusion, bickering, and unclear communication with the foundation. Some large scholarships have reopened, but the thousands she gave in honor of her late partner are still frozen. Stone says she and other LGBTQ donors are moving their scholarships off campus and thinking of creating a new nonprofit to manage them.
If there's funds left at the time that I die, they're no longer going to the IU Foundation. If they're freezing my scholarship that honors my late partner and has honored my work as well, there's no reason that they should be getting that money when there's other things that I care about.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Ethan Sandweiss.
Diversity programs at universities have been targeted at the state and federal level by mainly Republican lawmakers who say they unfairly exclude certain students. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Communities are adjusting to a law that took effect July 1st, requiring all public meetings to be made available online. And the Domino's in Ellettsville is hosting a fundraiser this weekend for an employee injured on the job. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
There's nothing more American than PBS. It's a safe place where kids learn and grow, and where grown-ups are informed, entertained, and inspired. PBS is one of America's greatest resources for 50 years strong, and PBS needs your help to keep going for another 50.
We will have done a great service.
For our future. Visit Protect My Public Media to learn more, because there's nothing more American than PBS.
Recently, WFIU and WTIU lost a combined $450,000 in state funding. This loss will directly impact the programming you rely on every day. The mission of public media has never been more vital or more vulnerable than right now. We're deeply committed to providing trusted programming to this region, and we're relying on our community now as much as ever. Help us meet this moment by becoming a sustaining member or increasing your monthly gift at WTIU.org/donate. Thank you.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. We're joined now by Clayton Baumgarth for more headlines from around the state. Hi, Clayton.
Hey, Joe. Breakfast and lunch prices for Monroe County school middle and high school students will go up by 10 cents in the fall. The increase comes as the school corporation aims to ensure financial stability in the nutrition program amid state and federal cuts. Preschool and after-school snack prices will increase 25 cents to $1.75.
We will continue offering free breakfast and lunch at eligible community eligibility provision schools, which are Arlington, Bloomington Graduation School, Clear Creek, Fairview, Grandview, Highland Park, and Templeton.
The board also approved online learning opportunities for students for the upcoming school year. The corporation is partnering with Edmentum to offer over 300 courses to students in kindergarten through 12th grade.
We also know that online learning can also offer flexibility for families, including support for mental health, travel, athletics, and medical needs. We also know we'd like to gain new students interested in online learning.
The school board also discussed consideration of a reduction in force policy at its meeting Tuesday night. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson reflected on her life and her career Thursday at a luncheon led by the Indianapolis Bar Association. Jackson, the first black woman to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court, is the first sitting justice to speak at an Indy Bar event. Jackson was asked what keeps her up at night, and she says it's the, quote, state of our democracy.
I am really very interested in getting people to focus and to invest and to pay attention to what is happening in our country and in our government.
Jackson also gave a brief behind-the-scenes glimpse of the Supreme Court, including its formal rituals and how and why judges write opinions. Some Hoosiers will be forced to prove their citizenship in order to keep their voter registration from being deleted under a new state law. The state will compare voter registration records with a list of temporary credentials at the Bureau of Motor Vehicles.
We don't have a problem with non-citizens voting in Indiana. In fact, there was no evidence ever produced during testimony on this bill that this was actually a problem.
If the state flags a registered voter, they will be notified that they have 30 days to provide proof of citizenship. And Indiana has a new state office dedicated to helping small businesses start and grow. The Office of Entrepreneurship and Innovation is part of a larger effort by Governor Mike Braun to help local companies.
I just want to help them make it through the gauntlet of survival where they don't get much attention presently.
The previous administration faced criticism that its economic development strategy seemed to focus more on luring big businesses to the state. Lawmakers put $1 million a year in the new state budget for the office. A potential strike looms after union workers for Duke Energy rejected the company's final offer for a new contract. The vote was nearly 2-1. Unless Duke returns to the bargaining table on July 16th, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 1393, will seek a strike.
We realize that a work stoppage doesn't benefit anybody, including the consumer. So that's not a direction that we want to go. If there's an opportunity for us to get headway and reach an agreement, that's what we want to try to do.
The union says it's asking for market level wages and a $25 reduction on insurance premiums. Discoloration in Bloomington's tap water should return to normal by next week. The city started receiving complaints last week about the water. Some in-house filtration units also collected more dark brown sediment than usual. The city says high water levels at Lake Monroe, which are about 13 feet above normal, allowed iron and manganese to rise enough to enter water systems.
And they were at a level where they were actually reaching our intake tower, and we were able to pull them into the treatment facility where, we do have measures in place to treat metals, but they were just at a level that our treatment plant could not keep up with.
And Joe, because of the high water, the beaches at Paintown and Fairfax remain closed.
All right, thanks, Clayton. Now, you worked on another story on a new law that took effect this month.
Yeah, Joe. So in 2023, Republican Representative Ben Smalls authored a bill requiring any public meeting of a state or local agency be accessible online. I spoke with one school corporation about the trouble it had complying with the law. The boardroom at the Spencer-Owen County Community Schools Administrative Building recently got an upgrade. 2 cameras at the front and back of the room overlook the board table. An array of speakers are in the ceiling tiles.
We wanted to have something that was, I don't want to say hands-off, but functional and easy to use. I don't know if we accomplished everything that we wanted with that, but it seems to be pretty robust.
The school board started the process of complying with the law well in advance of the deadline. It live-streamed its first meeting on May 22nd, but there have been challenges.
We typically have had one meeting in every building, every school building in the corporation at least once a year. And the technology is hardwired into the boardroom, and we can't necessarily just rip it all out and take it with us.
Not only is the board having to reassess how it conducts business throughout the year, there's only one person fully trained to run the live stream, Communications Director Chris Samick. Then there was the financial burden of acquiring and installing the equipment.
It frustrates me that the legislature sometimes passes unfunded mandates of things that we have to do. Now, the legislation did provide we could have lesser technology than we have to meet the requirement of the law.
The superintendent of the county school system says the new system cost $50,000.
The equipment's going to uphold, the integrity will be there so that we're not going to have to just completely replace pieces in 3 years or 4 years. This should be good for 10 years, 15 years, and a return on investment to our taxpayers in that sense.
The author of the bill says he became interested in requiring meetings to be online after the pandemic.
Once I think we saw that, we thought, well, wouldn't it be great if public meetings were all live streamed permanently so that the people that live in those communities can see what their government is doing, how they're spending their tax dollars.
The new law, however, doesn't say much about what happens to organizations that don't fall in line.
If you just don't have the internet, those are some exceptions to the live streaming and archiving. So I thought we were thoughtful of the communities that aren't yet fortunate enough to have exceptional internet.
For rural areas with less access to quality internet connection, the law just requires that the meeting is recorded and uploaded later. It allows transmissions and recordings of public meetings to be destroyed after 90 days. River Systems is an Indiana-based company that has helped at least 50 municipalities with live streaming.
This does not need to be overwhelming. It does not need to be expensive, and you can have a very good quality production with very little staff, very little hands-on.
Cook says the company has all-in-one systems starting as low as $1,500, but there are solutions that could be even cheaper.
We actually had one township that wanted a system that they could literally take to Arby's because that's where they have their town council meetings. Technically, you can do that.
Now that July 1st has passed, Cook says there are still plenty of organizations that haven't completed the transition. But now that many others have, he predicts more are going to join in.
I think we'll start to see a much more rapid deployment and adoption of this. And then once it's in place, people are going to look at this as, why didn't we do this before?
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Clayton Baumgarth.
And Joseph Tyndall is known to many in Ellettsville as Joe, the sign holder outside Domino's. After Joe was hit by debris from a car accident while working, Domino's and the community rallied in support. Natalie Fitzgibbons has the story.
The fundraising event will be Saturday at the Ellettsville Domino's. A portion of sales will go to 2 nonprofit groups, and all of the money from a dunk tank will go to Tyndall. That will provide him with additional support. His medical expenses and missed pay are already covered. Tyndall and another sign holder, Gibson Bell, were working July 3rd when a car hit a mailbox on the property next door. The mailbox and its concrete were ripped out of the ground and hit Tyndall's leg.
I thought I was going to get hit by the car, and I think I was going to be dead, but thank God I'm not.
Tyndall and Bell went to the hospital. Bell sustained scrapes and bruises. Tyndall needed 6 stitches in his leg and is in a walking boot. Tyndall has received immense support from the community. Many people expressed love and support for him on social media.
me for from all my friends. I thank God and my church at House of Prayer.
Ellettsville Domino's general manager, Jennifer Russ, says people have already dropped off money for Tyndall and the chosen nonprofits, Stoneboat, which supports people with disabilities, and to Edgewood High School football team. Bella's a player. Russ says Tyndall has brought joy to his coworkers and shows what it means to be dedicated.
He comes into work with a smile on his face, and anybody here can be having the worst day ever. You never know. And Joe makes it better.
The restaurant staff will be tripled the day of the event, and organizers expect to raise thousands of dollars.
I'm really looking forward to being able to see the community come together for really great causes.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Natalie Fitzgibbons.
That's the end of this program. We have more online, WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Mallard Grotner Plummer Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Mallard Grotner Plummer Attorneys, understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. On the web at lawngp.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville, fiber internet, security solutions, and voice in southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson, attorneys at law since 1949, utilizing experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.